Something I used to do as a child after New Year's was to experience everyday things, but highlight whenever it was a first that year. The first time going to the toilet this year, the first time falling asleep this year, the first time saying a word, all of these different firsts. And this reminds me quite a lot of what is happening now after this awakening, because it seems just living normal life keeps deepening realization, in the sense that these firsts after the awakening allow me to see where I've outsourced my identity and explanted it, basically. Not implant or transplant, but explanted my identity to relationships, into relationships with people, into places, into abstract concepts, into experiences. So the first time visiting my parents and my grandparents, spending time in the garden that I grew up in, just the countryside, I spent a lot of time in during my childhood, speaking to people I don't usually speak to in my everyday city life, or taking a trip to somewhere I've never been for the first time, or thinking about topics I used to have fixed opinions about, or I used to have specific opinions about. All of this allows me to now see how much I planted my identity in places, or now I don't see how it's present there anymore. I see how it was, but then by experiencing these firsts and going back into these places within my identity, I suppose, shows me how the way I used to cut this rose hedge doesn't define anything. It's just the way I used to do it. Now it's different. Whereas experiencing something several times never had this first effect before, because I would do something that I'd done before, but nothing this significant had changed in between the two times. So they were just two times. And the second was just another time doing this thing, something unremarkable. Whereas now, doing anything has a certain remarkable almost majesty to it. Because I'm freeing up more space. So this word majesty fits well, this larger than lifeness to the feeling of releasing this energy when I go back into something, see how my identity was tied to it, and then allow it to not define this identity and to just release. It's very powerful, and it opens up so much space, and it's just another great way of finding things that were just running in the back of my mind and my conditioning that are just always happening, that give a feeling of clustered, frustrating tightness and restriction. I'm obviously not consciously thinking about how I define myself over a specific task in a specific place that I'm not doing where I'm not at right now. When I'm at home, I'm not considering how my attitude toward my grandparents' rose hedge defines me and restricts me. So now going there, discovering that in the moment, in a situation that I can only experience because of living and continuing with my normal activities, and going back to all the places in the tapestry where I left off, basically, to just continue. Allows for this beautifully careful, by which I really mean full of care, this beautifully careful approach to very tenderly disentangling all these tendrils of identity that are still keeping these, to use my other metaphor or image, keeping these pieces of the ego crust around me still, though they're not attached anymore. They're still hovering around. And these kinds of actions allow for their release. I found it very helpful to phrase it in this way, that I'm placing my identity in locations that are not here with my body. Outsourcing the identity, because it's not projecting. That's also happening, but that's not what I'm talking about. With a projection, the projector remains in a contact over this projection with whatever is being projected or where it's projected on. But I'm talking about really outsourcing identity, in the sense that you really put it somewhere and then you're not there with it, watching what it does. It just does its own thing somewhere. Perhaps it stagnates, that's within its options, but it's not until you actually go there that you can see what has happened to it. And in that sense, of course, it's very exciting and beautiful as well to see who I am as presented to me by these colonies all over my life. Colonies which I will likely endlessly continue finding.